first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to visit my brother and his newborn because of what he did 2 years ago? I, male 33, lost my wife 2 years ago. Right now, I'm a single dad of my 9-year-old son. My wife had cancer. It was too much for her to take, but she always said that our son was her strength. She was receiving treatment and spending time at home with our son, as she always said that she wanted to spend as much time at home with our son as possible. She just knew. I took care of our son's needs as well as household, and her family was very supportive. Her sister helped by driving her to the hospital, but my family didn't do much. My brother, age 37, kept coming over and making comments about how our home was a mess and unhealthy for our son. Claimed that he was being neglected and asked what would happen to him after my wife passed away. He bluntly said that it wasn't fair for our son to live like that and kept being negative and telling those things to my wife, making her feel bad and worried. I told him to stop coming over and just leave us alone. I was angry with him, so I went low contact. And 1 month before my wife passed away, I had a visit from the CPS. My wife was home when they came. They did an interview with me and my son, and I explained my wife's condition. They then talked to her sister and informed me that someone called them and filed a report about our situation and possible neglect in our house. Eventually, nothing came out of the report, but my wife never stopped crying, and she got very sick that night. And I'm sure she felt helpless, as if she was a bad mother. I assured her that she was in fact stronger than most people and that the report was nothing, so she shouldn't have been worried. But she couldn't help it. My dad called me a week after, telling me to be careful because my brother reported me to CPS and was bragging about it, hoping they take action. I was livid. I got into a huge argument with him, and all who defended him and I caught contact with him right then. After my wife's funeral, no one visited except for her sister. I talked to my family, but I haven't talked to my brother for 2 years after what he did and all the stress it caused my wife. Last week, my mom called me to tell me my brother and his wife had a baby boy and wanted me to bring my son and visit him. I refused. She called me unreasonable and told me to let my son meet his cousin and uncle, to just forgive and forget. She kept pressuring me despite saying I don't want to. My dad himself said it's time for us to reconcile and get together as a family. I ended up yelling at them that I won't forget the scene my brother made before my wife passed away, and claiming that we were bad parents knowing that we were struggling and doing all we can. They just kept insisting I visit and how it goes, but I still refused. My brother didn't apologize and only talked to my parents. This is his first baby with his wife, as they had issues with miscarriages in the past. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'd let them all know you'll go no contact with them too if they keep this up. Last I checked, the sister was the only one actually helping and the only one to come to your wife's funeral. They all suck. Not disagreeing in general, but I think you misread about the funeral. I'm fairly sure what it means to say is that only the wife's sister visited after the funeral, although I think the wording is a little unclear. Not the a-hole. He tried to have your son removed from you while your wife was dying, and bragged about it. He'd be dead to me. The class act would be to help clean up the house. This was despicable. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, not the a-hole, not the a-hole. 1. He called CPS on you for no reason. 2. He put unnecessary stress on your wife in her final days. Screw him. He would be dead to me. Agreed. He would be dead to me if he stressed out my cat in her final days, let alone wife. The forgiveness fetish needs to be addressed before it does any more harm. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to go to college even though my siblings need me? Hey, I'll get straight to it. I, female 17, am the oldest of 9. 15 male, 13 male, 13 female, 12 male, 10 female, 7 male, 5 female, 2 male. My mother is a single mother who works hard to supply for us, but relies mostly off child support, as most of my siblings and I have different fathers. Though I'm only a half-sister to most of my siblings, I still love them all very much and try my very best to treat them as equal. I got a job at 14 to help make extra cash, and my days normally consist of getting up early to help get all the kiddos to school, or getting online for virtual school, and then going to my classes off the day. I'm a junior in high school, before going to work right when school ends and getting home a little before midnight. During the day while I'm in class, I'm still watching my 2-year-old brother and making sure all the other kids are still in class/paying attention. My mom works at a small restaurant nearby from around 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., but when she's home, mostly just sleeps because she's tired from her long shifts. Now, for the actual MIDA haul. Recently, I've been looking at and getting ready to apply to colleges but haven't told my mother. She went through my laptop the other day and found out what I was looking up financial aid and looking at some state schools a bit farther away, 600 to 700 miles, and got really upset. She started crying, saying she couldn't afford me to send to school, and that she couldn't continue to care for my siblings without me. I felt really bad and apologized, and we just sort of dropped it, but I didn't plan on stopping the search. I mentioned the other day I was really interested in a nearby state school, one state over, that offered my major and was cheaper than in-state tuition at my state school. I was super excited and told my mom. She completely blew at me. She kept telling me how selfish I was to abandon our family and that if I left, I'd be setting my family up to fail. She started yelling and crying, and soon my siblings got upset and also started crying too. It was a mess that left me really conflicted. On one hand, I don't want to be selfish and prioritize my future over my siblings, but on the other hand, I'm just exhausted. I'm so tired and running on 4 hours of sleep, and then just spending all day either working, babysitting, or doing school. I understand that's how life is, and that it's just hard and I have to learn to deal. But at the same time, it all feels so frustrating. I see all these other kids my age going out and having fun and doing teen things, and it makes me sad that I have to miss that. But I know it's my responsibility to take care of my siblings. I'm at loss, and at this point, just need to know if I'd really be a Nahal if I decided to go to college. I'd still send money home as often as possible, and I'd get financial aid and take out a loan to spend as little money as possible. But I feel terrible for wanting to be selfish and leave my family. Now for the top comments. Not Nahal at all. Your siblings are not your responsibility, they are your mother's. She needs to stop relying on you. She works 8 hours a day. That's pretty normal. She shouldn't spend the rest of the time sleeping. She needs to be a parent. She chose to have all these kids and she needs to take care of them. Parentification is abuse. You have every right to live your own life. Go to college. You need to think of your own future and how you will support yourself. I came here to say this. 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. is not a long shift. It's 7.5 hours after a lunch break. It's very unfair for a mom to put this burden on you. Look at it this way. If you get a degree, you'll have a more financially secure future and might be able to help out your siblings when they are ready for college, like with a place to stay, etc. I literally did 3 to 4 8-hour shifts with full-time school. The mom isn't even taking care of the kids when she's home. So why exactly is she tired? And if she does get tired easily, why exactly does she keep on popping kids out? Shouldn't have had kids after the 10-year-old. It sucks for mom, but it sounds like she's perpetually dumped after getting pregnant. I don't care how many dads there are. If she can't take care of her kids, she needs to stop having intercourse since she obviously doesn't care about using protection. 9 kids is pretty damn intentional. God, not an a-hole. Please go to college. That is going to get you a job and help you become independent, not your siblings. You are being parentified, which is a type of abuse. Your mom was the one who was so irresponsible for having 9 kids. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mom we haven't had a good relationship in a long time and wanted to go live with my dad? I, 16 female, used to have a good relationship with my mother. That has since crashed and burned since she dated and married my stepdad, Gary, 6 years ago. Gary treats his son, Ian, 19 male, like he's the center of the universe and expects my mother to as well. So she does. Anything Ian wants, Ian gets, and that usually comes at the expense of me. Ian wanted my room when they moved in. I was forced to go to another room to make the transition easier for everyone. Ian wanted a car for his 16th birthday. I didn't get braces for another year. Ian wanted to go on an expensive trip for spring break. I had to give up volleyball to make it happen. Ian wanted to have his side of the family over. I was expected to find somewhere else to be, since I wasn't family. My mother just went along with all of this and acted like it shouldn't affect me at all. My dad was overseas for a long time, and we used to FaceTime, and he was so upset by what he was hearing. He's home now and is offering to have me come live with him. I'm not seeing a reason not to go, and so I told my mom I wanted to go live with my dad. She predictably freaked out and asked why I did want to do that, and said that we had such a good relationship she didn't understand how this came so out of the blue. I told her that we haven't had a good relationship since she blindly decided to follow Gary's lead and give Ian anything he wanted, and it always came at my expense. My mom tried to argue, so I said I also wanted to leave because she let them kick me out of my own house because I wasn't family. So I was going to go live with someone who was. My mom started crying and said she wouldn't let me go. So I told her that my dad was willing to go to court over it, and I was old enough to be able to say where I wanted to be. She's been a crying mess since I told her, and Gary's being a jerk about how awful I'm being. Here's where I might be the a-hole. He was witching at me about how terribly I'm treating them and how I'm not thinking about them at all. I asked why should I? He never thought of me when he was taking things from me to give to his kid. I said, let's face facts here. You don't care about me. What you care about is losing the child support you spend on your son. He sort of went slack-jawed and I walked off. My dad said my mom called and threatened to take him to court, so he said he'd see her there. Now she's panicking because she realized he is planning on taking her to court over this. Mom and Gary of course think I'm the a-hole for making things hard for everyone, but my dad and grandparents say to leave and never look back. Am I the a-hole for wanting to get away from this situation? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said he was worried about losing your child support. I hope your mother has a job because she is going to have to pay child support to your dad. Exactly. The expensive vacation, his car, and God knows what else for Ian was likely taken out of the child support for her. That's her money. Gary's big mad because his free money is being taken away. Opie, let them stay mad. Take care of yourself and let your dad take care of you too. Nothing that's happening is your fault. Be well and best of luck. Not a hole. Go to your dad's house. I'm so sorry this is going on. Not a hole. You have been punished for her inability to stand up to her husband for far too long. I hope that life with your dad is amazing and it treats you how you deserve to be treated. You should let him force her to stop treating you as family. You owe them nothing. At all. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I resent them for pushing me to spend so much time with my sister? My parents have me, 17 female, and my sister, 14 female. Ever since we were little, my parents have wanted us to spend a lot of time together. And sometimes they have told me I couldn't do something because my little sister wouldn't be invited. Like my best friend's 7th birthday party wasn't 4-year-old friendly. And I was devastated because they went to this really cool water park that I had really wanted to go to. They backed off a little bit when I was like 13 to 15, and then once I started working, they pushed again. I went to school, worked a couple of hours after school and a couple of hours on weekends. Then, when I would have free time to unwind, they would come in and ask me to spend time with my sister. Or why don't I let my sister come and talk to me while I relax? Why don't I go see a movie with my sister? Why am I spending time talking to a friend and not my sister? It's not that we hate each other, but I don't want to spend that much free time with her. We're not super alike. Our interests are different. I still spend some time with her, but I'm closer to my friends because we are bonded over shared interests. I got very frustrated recently because my sister wanted to go to a certain store to get a dress and I was out with a friend. They called me and told me I needed to come home and spend time with her and take her to the store to get the dress. I told them I already had plans, and they told me, well, I have a new plan now and to tell my friend family time called. When I got home, I told them I am tired of them pushing us together so much, and that I resent them for pushing that time so much, and that I should be able to relax or have friends and not have to drop plans already made, just to bring her to get a dress. I told them I should be able to do things that she can't, and she should be able to do things that I can't. They told me they were just being normal parents, and that it's the life of a sibling, spending time with them and changing plans for them. I told them they were the reason I didn't get invites to certain parties as a kid, because they were the parents who brought a sibling with invitee, and not everyone likes that. This happened so many times it used to make me feel so bad. Even some actual friends didn't get to invite me because their parents didn't want my sister to come, and my parents wouldn't keep her home. They said that it was the problem of those adults. I told them I blamed them, and that they were wrong to do it, and that spending time with my sister didn't make up for the things I missed. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And this comment from them, they told me they were just being normal parents and that it's the life of a sibling, spending time with them and changing plans for them. BS. I've never had to cancel plans with friends to hang with my sisters. They didn't have to cancel plans to hang with me. And I've never had a friend cancel a plan with me to go see their sibling, unless it was some sort of emergency. Why can't your parents take her dress shopping? They're obsessed with making sure she has a relationship with you because you're family, but they won't go out with her and let you have your own life once in a while? I know. It would have made much more sense for them to take her shopping. But they said it was something sisterly. It's annoying, and clothes shopping is not my idea of fun. Not at a-hole. As a parent of a 13 and 15-year-old, it is not normal to expect them to spend that much time together. I did used to let them attend each other's parties, but to go to someone else's party, you need an invite. No invite? And that son is spending the time somewhere else. It is totally normal for both of you to have different friends and spend time apart. Exactly. But my parents considered an invite for me an invite for her, and vice versa. Not at a-hole at all. Your parents, well, there's no nice way to say this. Shouts from the rooftops, your parents are a-holes. That is not normal parenting. Normal parenting would be to recognize that your kids are separate people with their own friends and interests. It is not demanding that one kid essentially give up their life to hang out with the other one. Nope. Did they just not want to bother with two sets of activities? I can't find a reasonable explanation for why they'd want to do this, other than that they want you to look after your sister so they don't have to. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for ending my marriage after finding out my wife was planning to leave me, but only after she stayed long enough to do a small career change? Last year, my soon-to-be ex-wife, 32 female, told me she wanted to transition from being a labor and delivery nurse to becoming a specialist cancer nurse. She said she planned to return to college, cut back her hours at work, and finish her training in 2 years. I was supportive, though a little surprised. She had always seemed happy with her career and our life with our 2 kids. But I know people can sometimes spontaneously feel the urge for something more or different, so it wasn't a big deal at first. Her decision put some strain on me. Because she was so busy, I had to take on a lot more to allow her to do less. What used to be a 50-50 division of responsibilities shifted to about 80-20 after she returned to school. About 4 months after she started college, I overheard her talking to her best friend. I wasn't supposed to be home for another hour, but had managed to leave early and had the kids with me. Her friend asked her how she could stay married while keeping up the pretense. My ex said that if she left me, she would never be able to make the career move, because she wouldn't have the time to be a single parent while working and training for her specialty. She added that I was supporting her, without realizing she wanted out of our marriage, and that she planned to leave as soon as she secured her new job. Her friend told her this would all blow up in her face when I found out, and she responded that she didn't care. She said she'd screw herself over by continuing to work, even after we had kids. Otherwise, she could have left earlier and made me pay child support while she pursued her goals. When her friend left and the kids were in bed, I told her the marriage was over and that I refused to be used until she got what she wanted. She tried to say I'd misunderstood and was overreacting. She was ready for an argument, but I told her we wouldn't discuss it in front of the kids. Once they were out of the house, we had it out. She accused me of being selfish and punishing her for changing her mind about our marriage. She said that if I were a good man, I'd encourage her to quit her job and support her until she was ready to leave. In the end, I filed for divorce and moved out of the home. I wanted to fight for the house since I had lived there before we were together, but her name was on the deed, and I didn't want my kids to live in a hostile environment. They were already going through a lot, and the divorce has been difficult for them. My ex hates me, her family hates me, and my kids aren't allowed to talk about me around them. I've tried to hide how sad I am around the kids, but I fear they've picked up on it. My ex is fighting the divorce, and her family keeps telling me I'm selfish and that I should understand a woman has the right to ensure her stability before ending a marriage. But she would have been stable without going back to college. Her job was secure, and before this, she worked enough hours to support herself and the kids on her own if she had to. She simply didn't want to continue in that job. I don't feel like I owe her that support. Maybe I'm wrong though. Now for the top comments. She has a right to leave a marriage whenever she deems fit and for whatever reason she has. But so do you. I find it interesting that her problem isn't trying to fix the marriage, but instead making you her doormat for a comfortable future. Not yours, hers. Not a-hole. There are legal rights and moral rights. She has failed morally and ethically. He needs to get as far away from her as possible. While legally she has a right to end it, it's super unethical to soak him financially before she leaves. Not the a-hole. You do not have to stay in a relationship to be used. I would have advised you to not leave the home if I was your lawyer, and never put a spouse on a premarital asset. My family didn't think I should leave the house either, but staying wasn't the right thing for my kids. They would have witnessed too much hostility and fighting. Even if I refused to engage, if she was willing to act like that around them, it wouldn't have been fair for them to live through. I'm sorry you were going through this, but honestly, the a-holes are your ex and anyone who told you to stay. That is ridiculous. The marriage, they wanted me to leave. I did have a few people suggest I should have tried counseling with her first, but she was already gone and didn't want to work on us. She just wanted a safety net. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my fiancé play dad to his nephew because he's biologically his son? He was the sperm donor. My fiancé donated sperm to his brother and his now ex-wife because they were having issues conceiving naturally. The wife was checked by multiple doctors, but his brother refused to get checked because he didn't want people to think he was less of a man. So he roped my fiancé into secretly donating sperm. I wasn't comfortable with the idea, but my fiancé comes from a close-knit family. So I knew I wouldn't be able to convince him not to help his brother. So I didn't even try. His brother was supposed to raise the child as his own, but he couldn't cope with the fact that the baby wasn't biologically his. So he divorced his wife before she even gave birth. Ever since, my fiancé has been supporting her financially because his brother left her with nothing and she doesn't work. To an extent, I was okay with this because she's probably the biggest victim in all of this. And my fiancé's brother is a huge jackass for putting her in this situation. But it did make me uncomfortable when he started buying her gifts to cheer her up or going to the doctor appointments with her. She has since given birth, and now my fiancé has decided he'll raise the baby with her because he doesn't want the child to grow up fatherless. Also, a big reason I think he wants to raise the baby is because his brother has made it seem like she was unfaithful to his family, so they're questioning whether the baby is part of their family or not. My fiancé doesn't want his nephew to be shunned. I'm completely against this because it was bad enough that I had to accept another woman birthing his child before me, but I don't want to be a stepmother. The agreement was that my fiancé would only be an uncle to the baby, which is something I can cope with. Anything more is too much. I know this isn't an easy situation for the ex, and I sympathize with her, but this isn't my problem. She shouldn't have let her husband push her into something she wasn't comfortable with, and my fiancé has already done more than enough for her. Am I the a-hole? Honestly, you should just leave. Your fiancé is probably the legal father instead of a sperm donor, because the way they went about this doesn't sound legal. As far as a court is concerned, there is no difference between this conception and a regular one, unless there were clinics, doctors, and legal teams involved that designated your brother as a sperm donor legally. He's just a regular father and will be required to do things like pay child support. Courts have already ruled on DIY donation, and it basically doesn't count as a donation at all. On another thought, your fiancé needs to be honest about the situation to the entire extended family, who are basically calling this woman a cheater and a liar. He's still protecting his brother, who is making up lies about his ex-wife, so he doesn't have to feel guilty about the fact that he did something insane, because his ego was bruised. Blamed it on his wife, and then dipped out so he wouldn't have to take responsibility for his actions. The entire family should know what a piece of crap he is. They should know he is infertile with defective sperm, that he roped his brother into this insane plan, that his wife didn't cheat on him, and that he purposely impregnated her with his brother's sperm, possibly without her knowledge, and then dipped out because it wasn't his kid. Right now, my fiancé isn't the legal father. His brother is. This wasn't a DIY sperm donation. It was done officially at a clinic, but my fiancé wants to be recognized as the legal father now. Walk away. Let them become a family. It is his son, and he has feelings. He is showing his family that the boy and his mom are family. You don't want to be a stepmother? Then don't marry him. It's better to leave now before he leaves you for her. You will always be second now. He has a child. The deal has changed. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife and sister-in-law they need to accept their half-brother doesn't want a relationship? 6 months ago, my wife, 26 female, and her sister, 24 female, learned they have an older half-brother from their mom. They had never met this man, nor heard their mom or anyone else talk about him before. The only thing they know is that he was primarily raised by his paternal grandparents. When they found out he existed, they hired an internet PI to help them find him. The PI found his social media profiles and full name. From there, my wife and her sister made contact. There was no reply, so my sister-in-law decided she would message him once a week in case he wasn't getting the notifications. She and my wife did everything they could to convince themselves that he wasn't responding for some other reason, other than the fact that he didn't want a relationship. After a few months of this, he finally replied once, saying he wanted to be left alone and did not want a relationship or any form of contact with them. Soon after, his profiles were made private, so only his friends and followers could interact with him. My wife is pregnant with our first child right now, and some people have suggested that hormones are driving her to obsess over this. But neither she nor her sister is willing to let it go. I'm trying to be a supportive husband, but they're talking about doing things that border on stalking or harassment in an attempt to get this man to agree to a relationship. They don't understand why he would reject them when they never knew he existed. My sister-in-law showed me his reply. I didn't say this to them because I'm not sure, but it sounds to me like he did know they existed and chose to stay away. I could be wrong, of course. I suggested therapy to them, but they said a therapist wouldn't help them have a relationship with their brother. The other night, my wife and I were discussing baby names again when my wife and sister-in-law started talking about their half-brother and how he should be around when the baby is born. This then turned into a conversation about how they could find a way to get in front of him to plead for a chance. That's when I told them they were handling this badly and needed to learn to accept his no. I said they don't have to like it and they're allowed to have their own feelings about it, but they need to accept that he has said no. I told my wife that her half-brother was occupying more of her mental space than our unborn son, and he's going to be born soon. Our lives are about to change. Sister-in-law said I wasn't being understanding enough. My wife didn't argue either way, but she looked really thoughtful, and she's been quiet since that conversation. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Sorry, but it's kind of delusional for them to say their half-brother should be there when the baby is born, at least given how things are currently going. All you did was give them a reality check. He asked them not to contact him. Any further attempts could be harassment. You don't want them messing around and ending up with a restraining order. If the half-brother ever changes his mind, he'll reach out. The ball is in his court, but he may or may not even pass it back. That's up to him. They can't force a relationship. Right? I want someone I've never met before to be there for the birth of my child? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Sharing DNA does not require a relationship. They need to accept this. His family is the one who raised him and the people he built a life with, not some random people he happens to share an egg donor with. Why is this so hard for them? Last story. Am I the a-hole for oversharing to my in-laws when they called me on being a typical guy who doesn't put effort into maintaining his family relationships? My wife, 25 female, comes from a close and happy family. Both parents are really involved with their kids, who spend time with and enjoy being around one another. All the siblings get along well and are there for each other. They have family dinners regularly, are in each other's weddings as bridesmaids/groomsmen, talk almost every day, and have a very active family group chat. If someone in the family needs help, they will be there, even if it's in the middle of the night. I, 25 male, come from a very different family. None of my family came to our wedding, didn't even RSVP, and they were invited. I can't think of a single person in my family I'm close with. The rest of my family isn't close either. Once we turned 18, we were expected to leave our parents' house, and there was no support. The sibling relationships were pretty volatile. My parents don't want to hear from any of us unless we're dead, which would be hard to inform them of, but that's exactly what my dad said. My mom might have been in the hospital last year. I still don't know. I tried calling my dad and he didn't answer. He texted me that he didn't appreciate the multiple calls. When I told him what I'd heard and asked if my mom was okay, he ignored the question. I tried texting her, but I got no reply. I only know she's alive because she left a voicemail weeks later saying she didn't want any of us thinking we could come home for Christmas. I'm not even sure I have the correct numbers for most of my siblings. Honestly, I'm not sure even a death in the family would bring us all back together. I could be an uncle right now and wouldn't have a clue. It's the way it is. We never had a close family. As kids, we were expected to entertain ourselves and deal with everything alone. No help from parents, no sibling bond. I'm the youngest, and that was my normal. My experience with my family made my wife's family seem surreal to me. I had never been around people who cared so much about each other and actually wanted to spend time together. I'm pretty sure I'd have been locked out of the house as a kid if I tried to spend any real time with my parents or siblings. I was upfront about my family situation. My wife knew everything and had been with me during the rare call with a family member. She was stunned by the total indifference and lack of care. She's never actually spoken to a single member of my family. I spent time with her family frequently, and since we got married 7 months ago, it's become pretty clear that my in-laws think I'm just one of those can't be bothered to make the effort with family type of guys. My wife always has my back, and whenever a comment is made about it, she always speaks up. I've told her family before that we just weren't close. A couple of weeks ago, we met for a big family dinner, and my mother-in-law made a comment that if I picked up the phone and talked to my family, I'd be closer to them. My wife told her it's not that simple, and that my family just isn't interested. Both her parents responded with something like, maybe they're tired of chasing after their kids. My wife said they shouldn't blame me when we've already explained it. They said they simply couldn't buy that an entire family cares so little for one another. At that point, I went into exactly how it had been growing up. The expectation to move out at 18 and never come back to our parents. I read a few texts I had from family members and even explained the situation with my mom possibly being in the hospital. I showed them my phone and everything. I told them that's the reality of my family. That's just how mine are. And while I appreciate that they have a close family and can't imagine it, they don't get to put all of that on me. My wife agreed with me and told them she hoped it would be the last time this was ever mentioned, but her family felt like I overshared and made the dinner awkward. Maybe I did go a little over the top with it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You made things awkward? Oh no, those were the consequences of their crappy behavior by prying into something that's already been explained to them. Maybe next time they'll stay in their lane? Not the a-hole. Maybe. Hopefully. I think they had their eyes opened if nothing else. How are they all adults and not understand that some families are just toxic and dysfunctional? They are either, as a whole, very sheltered or just willfully blind. I'm glad to hear that your wife stands up for you though, and I wouldn't worry about what your in-laws think. They wouldn't have had to hear about it if they had just used their manners and let it go. Not the a-hole. I think in their minds, families might not be as close, but they still expect a certain amount of love and care in all families. They don't grasp the concept that you can have a big family where love and care never existed. To them, it's unimaginable, because even the worst families they've encountered were better than the one I came from. I can understand it seeming strange. It's like how I felt when I first encountered them. It was so different from what I was used to. But I never doubted they were close. I realized the families could be different from mine.